Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Carlos and I'm with iDrone, and today I want to talk to you about something that it started for me about 2 months ago, but I'm finally getting to do the video today, and this is going to be a series of videos because I think it's important to actually give you some tips and tricks of what it takes to get into the FPV hobby. I've been flying quadcopters for a while, but I usually fly them line of sight. I was not really very good at it. I would just flying around and those do flips and rolls, and that's it. So about 2 months ago, I decided, you know what, I want to go ahead and give it a try to fly an FPV with the goggles and stuff like that. So it's not like I have the most experience in the world, but I have already, on the 2 months that I've been doing this, I have already made a couple of mistakes. And since those are things that I think I can actually, they can actually hold you back on your progress, and they can hold you back on enjoying the hobby a little bit more. I wanted to go ahead and actually share them with you. And I want to go ahead and actually also talk to you about what it requires, what is required for you to get into the hobby of FPV, quadcopter flying FPV. So let me go ahead and start with the things that you're gonna need, the very basic, and the way that I should have done it when I first started doing the FPV flying. The way that I did it the first time was I got a remote, I got goggles, I got a quadcopter, I got batteries, and I hooked everything up and I went flying. And of course, didn't work. I just basically crashed all the time. I was not able to keep the quadcopter in the air for long. I couldn't move forward. I couldn't control the quad. It was kind of frustrating. So I quit basically, and that was probably like a couple of years back before all this new fly controllers and better technology and all that. So I basically stopped. This time around, I actually decided to do it a little bit different. This time around, I decided to have a little bit more patience, and that was my number one mistake back then when I tried to get into it. I tried to get into it in a rush, and to be honest with you, it doesn't work. This is something that once you get the hang of it and you start progressing, I feel that you're gonna progress really fast. Like every time that you fly, you're gonna progress a little bit more and you're gonna feel it. But it's not something that you can just get in it with a rush and you want to like fly it today. It could happen. It has been done, but there is a way to do it. There is steps that you need to follow. There is things that you need to do in order to be able to get into the hobby the right way. What I would recommend, and I have already recommended, because obviously I don't fly alone, but most of the time, and he's kind of been my guinea pig. He's been my son. He got into the hobby from zero, from not knowing how to even hover a quadcopter, to already flying FPV and going into loops and rolls and all that. So I know that if he's able to do it and he's 12, anyone that can come into the hobby doing it the same way that he did it and the same way that I did it on the second time around will be able to actually enjoy the hobby even more. So what I did with him is the following. This is my remote. My remote is actually an old remote. It's a Turnigy i10. It's a really good remote. It's actually a 10-channel remote. I love this remote. For me, it's the best. So I got him something similar. I got him a Fly Sky i6, the Yashin i6. And basically, the most important thing that you can actually get is not actually the remote. It's actually the fly simulator. Get a fly simulator that you can use with your remote, or get a remote that can be used with the computer. Once the remote is recognized by the computer, then you can use it with any fly simulator. And I got this remote and the i6, both are being recognized by the computer. So I actually got my son a fly simulator. I got him the Free Rider fly simulator. and I hooked it up to his remote, and I put it on the computer, and I obviously explained to him, what it takes to hover a quadcopter. And I told him, how to do it, what is front, what is back, when you push, when you pull, when you roll, when you jaw. I gave him all the concept of what it is, a quadcopter, and the directions that they move. And within, I will say, a couple of hours of practice, he was already hovering around and moving the quad around a little bit. And he was able to actually do a solid hover for like 3-4 minutes without, going crazy with the quadcopter. So, you know, it's something that is not that difficult, but you need to get the feeling out of it. Sometimes looking at a computer, you don't get the same feeling as looking at the aircraft from outside. So the other thing is, get a simulator that allows you to see line of sight, and that also allows you to see, FPV view. So you can have both. So you can see what it looks like when the aircraft is just flying in front of you, and when the aircraft is flying through the goggles or through the computer or the monitor or whatever. So I did that with him, and he started progressing on the simulator to the point that he was able to actually just fly forward and actually sometimes go through one of the little things that they have, the gates and all that. So he was actually already progressing to the point that he was moving forward and doing everything. Obviously, when he got his quadcopter that I built for him and I put him to fly, was a different story. The simulator doesn't react the same as the quadcopter, and that's one of the things that separate the two. Flight simulator is mostly for thumb memory. You create muscle memory when you're flying it, when you're doing it, and you really get a sense for how you have to react. But obviously, when you get the quadcopter up in the air, sometimes, not all the time, they fly quite differently. But the reaction that you have to do is pretty much the same. So when the first time that he got his quadcopter and he started flying his quadcopter, or actually trying to hover the quadcopter, I actually have a video of that, which I'll probably put in another video that I'm building for him, for his progress and all that. You could see that he can fly the quadcopter and he can hover it, but there is a lot of like throttle management that he's having problems with. And that's because obviously the latency between what you see, what is going on in the computer, it has a lot more latency than the actual quadcopter when he flies for real. So he had that little adjustment that he needed to make, but he was able to make it, and he was able to fly fine. He was enjoying his quadcopter flying and all that. And then after he did that for a couple of flights, then I got him his own pair of goggles, and I got him to actually try to fly FPV. And I have to say that from the first time that he flew FPV, it was like he couldn't make it literally like 10 feet forward. He will try to move forward and he will hit the ground and flip over. Hit the ground and flip over. He was having problems with throttle management again, because it's a different feeling when you have the goggles on. It's a different view. It's not the same. So he was having problems with that, but he was able to actually get over it like on the third, fourth flight. And now he's on FPV fly forward. He's like doing whatever he wants. He goes through gaps. He turns around. He does 360s with the jaw. He does a whole bunch of things that are like, for someone that has experience, is nothing, but for someone that is beginning, that is a beginner, that is just starting on in the hobby, is like really, really good. So you feel like a lot of accomplishment when you do something like that. That is a new trick that you can dominate, or you can. His new thing now is to fly really, really low, because he says that it looks really, really cool on the goggles. So the other day he was flying, and literally he was flying like probably like a foot off the ground, which again, for someone that has experience, is nothing, but for someone that is a newbie, is the coolest thing ever. So he progressed a lot in that, and that brings me up to where he's at now. Right now, he's actually trying to learn how to flip the quad. Flip forward, roll left, right, whatever. He's trying to do the loops. So right now he's in the simulator trying to do and learn all that. And the thing with the simulator is that you are never going to stop using the simulator, because the simulator will allow you to go ahead, and if you see, Tommy from Rotor Riot go and do this super cool trick, and the guy explains to you what the memory sequence, the stick sequence is, you can go into the simulator and try to duplicate that stick sequence and see what the result is until you dial it in, and then you already know, okay, I'm not doing this loop correctly, or not doing this turn correctly because I'm delay on this stick or whatever, and then you can start getting adjusted to it. Like when the first time that I did a power loop, I was having problems with the throttle management. I was leaving the throttle all too long, and then instead of actually going up and then hanging and then coming back down, I was going up, turning around, and then going straight down like a bullet. By the time that I actually flipped the quad, I was having too much energy going down, and I would bounce off the ground and I would crash. And it took me a while to actually manage that on the simulator, until I finally got it and I understood, and then I applied that to the real life, and then I can go ahead and actually do power loops. So those are the things that you use the simulator for, because is some of these guys actually get pretty expensive. Some of these guys are $400 or $500. I mean, even though there's ones out there, like for example the Chinese clone of this one is $99. There's some out there that are $300, $400, $500. So it's not something that you want to be crashing on the first time that you're going to try a trick. You should go ahead and actually do the simulator first, and then try the trick. But the first two things that I will tell you that you will need for sure will be definitely a radio. There is radios from $46, like the one that my son has, all the way up to, you name it, $1,000, $2,000. Do you need a radio that is $1,000, $2,000? No. When I bought this one was $99. If you go buy it now, if you can find it, because they don't make it anymore, but if you can find this radio, it's up to $200 right now, because it is a good radio. It's Chinese radio, but it's one of the high-end Chinese radios that has a lot of features. The screen is actually it has a color screen. It has, you see. So it has a color screen, and it has all the toys and whistles and telemetry and expo and all that. So it's a good radio. So those are the first two things that you need, will be the radio and the flight simulator. Next, out of the flight simulator, before you go with goggles, I will tell you, go ahead and actually get yourself, my advice will be, get yourself a crash dummy. When I say crash dummy, I mean a quadcopter that you build it so cheap that you don't care if you crash it and you break it, because you can go ahead and replace it easier. This is actually not my crash dummy. My crash dummy, the frame was actually a 99-cent frame, believe it or not, that I bought many years ago, and I just had it sitting around. That was my actual crash dummy that I used to use to go ahead and try the tricks and try to do the loops and try to do the rolls and all that. I learned that on that quad. So that will be the third part that you will buy. Will definitely be building the quadcopter. And then once you manage to fly your quad line of sight, that you're able to do at least a figure eight with the quad, that you just go around and then come and do a figure eight. Once you're able to do that, at that point, I will tell you, okay, well, go ahead and jump into the goggles, and then you can go ahead and get a set of goggles. I got this set of goggles. I got them a long time ago. Well, actually, I didn't get them. It was a gift. But I wanted them, and I got them. And the reason why I got these goggles is because these goggles, they actually have a full screen in the inside. They are not like the Fat Sharks that have two little screens, even though those are good. Those are really, really good. The picture is really good. Everything is good with those goggles. Those goggles are $400 or $300 to $400. And to be honest with you, I haven't progressed enough to actually justify for me to go ahead and actually get those pair of goggles. If you had the money and you want the goggles, listen, more power to you. Go for it. They're good goggles. I I wouldn't tell you that they're not. For me, you know, $50 goggles or $60 goggles are just fine. This one, I believe right now are like $79. This one have DVR. They have dual antennas, so they're really good goggles. Resolution in the picture is really good. I mean, I have no complaints. I really like my set of goggles. I love them so much that I think that, unless something really, really amazing comes up, I think I'm gonna stick to this. Probably I'm not gonna go into the fat shark side of things. Probably gonna stay with this type of goggles. I like them better. I like to have a big screen in front of me when I'm flying, and instead of having two little screens. So that's just me, the way that I like things. So that basically will be my advice for you to start. And when you're gonna buy the quadcopter that is gonna be your crash dummy, like I call it, try not to get something that looks like this, that is one of those Chinese that it requires for you to have some experience building them in order for you to be able to feed everything on it, all the flight controller PDB, the BTX and all that. Try to get something like, for example, the QA250, and I'll leave a link at the bottom of this video. I'm gonna actually leave a link at the bottom of this video to everything that I think should be your first buy when you put together your first quadcopter. And there is a couple of reasons for that. One, I think it should be the cheapest you can go. There is no point in my book to learn how to drive with a Rolls Royce if you have no idea what to do. I think you should start learning to drive with a Chevy Cruze, and once you actually learn to drive with a Chevy Cruze, then if money is no problem for you, then you can go ahead and buy your Rolls Royce and have the best of the best. Me, when I put my first quad together, since I knew I was gonna crash, since I knew I was gonna have issues, I went the cheap route and I got everything the cheapest that I could. And since then, that's been my philosophy for everything. I used to fly planes and I did the same thing. When I went to fly planes, I got the cheapest of the cheapest because I knew I was gonna crash, and I was gonna have very good chances of crashing until I learned how to fly. And after that, then I went and I bought my expensive planes with expensive parts and expensive engines, motors, and all that. And then at that point, then you're flying the good stuff, which sometimes flies the same or worse than the cheap stuff, but that's the way it is. It's all in configurations, and you learn as you go on this hobby. But for me, for example, this is still not my Rolls Royce of flying. This is another beat up crash dummy that I have, that I thought that it would look cool with this type of frame. And to be honest with you, there is a lot of things that I would have changed if I would have known. Putting the GoPro here is literally not an option because it doesn't have any way to strap it in. So you cannot have either a Season 5 or the Hero 5, I'm sorry, you cannot have it here. So unless you put in like something like a Roncam Mini or Roncam, split that you can record from the camera that you use for FPV, this is not a frame that you can easily use for recording, for doing the HD recording. Then the engines, as you can see, they are Chinese engines. They are cheap. There are like 4 engines for like, I believe is $25 if I'm not mistaken. ESC is the same thing with the ESCs. I got ESCs that are 4 ESCs for like $28. They are the B Heli ESCs. The flight controller that I got on this is actually a good flight controller. Actually, I have the Joshua Barwell flight controller on this guy, and I really, really, really like that flight controller. It's probably gonna be one of my main flight controllers from this point on for all my builds because I really, really like it, the way that it sets up. And then the receiver is just a receiver that is compatible with my remote, and that's basically it. I mean, that will be my advice for you guys when you're starting. the first quad is in this hobby, at least in planes, and I see that it applies to this too, is not if you're gonna crash, is when you're gonna crash. And unfortunately, when you're studying, your when is gonna crash is gonna happen a lot more often than if you're gonna crash. So because of that, I think, at the beginning, don't buy the one. I mean, if you have the money to buy two and you want to go ahead and buy two and you want to buy your Rolls Royce because you want to have it and see it, that's fine. Buy your Rolls Royce if you want to, but also buy your Chevy Cruze at the same time so you can learn on the Chevy Cruze. And then whenever you're going to try something for the first time, do it on the little one, do it on the cheap one. And once you control it, then do it on the other one. Make sure that you have similarity on the way that you set up your quads. Like all my quads have the same rates, they have the same pits, they pretty much fly the same expo, same everything. So when I switch from one to the other one, I don't feel the difference that much, as I will feel from, let's say, my quad and my son's quad, because he has different rates, different setup from me, because he likes it in a different way that I like it. I like it a lot more snappier. He likes it a lot more slow. He likes to be able to control more the out stick. I like to control more the center stick. So it's two different types of setup, which we will get into that as we progress on the hobby. I'm planning on making a lot of other videos on, what to do, how to do it, and how to get better at FPV. So for today, my recommendation, my first two tips is get a radio, get a flight simulator, and start hitting that simulator. Go a week without doing anything else. Go a week just radio and simulator and fly and fly and fly and fly and fly. It doesn't matter if you are able to hover. If you're able to hover, then try to start moving forward. Once you conquer on the simulator moving forward, then try to go ahead and actually go between gates or do something with gates. And at that point, then you can go ahead and actually start taking your Chevy Cruze little quadcopter cheapo, out and flying it. And then once you go there, you can start progressing. On my next video, I'm going to tell you a couple of tips or what to do when you get to that point. When you get to the point that, okay, I've been flying the simulator already for a week. I can hover for 3 minutes. I can move forward. I can go between gates. I want to go ahead and actually start flying my quadcopter on, on a field, on a grassy field, and I want to see how it feels. So that's what we're going to do on the next video. For today, those are the only two tips that I'm going to give you. I show you all the stuff that is involved in this. We're going to get into a more detailed video also that I'm going to do where I'm going to break down one of this. I'm probably going to go ahead and actually do a build of the QA250. That, in my opinion, is the best Chevy Cruze out there, the best beat up crash dummy quadcopter that is out there for you to learn will be a QA250, because even though it's cheap and you can beat them up, it's a quadcopter that is designed to progress into the hobby a lot. It allows you to carry a GoPro, it allows you to carry good receivers, and it responds pretty good. So it's a very good starting point for a good starting quadcopter for FPV. So for today, like I said, those are the only two tips. Buy a radio, buy a simulator, or get a simulator and just hit it for a week. And in a couple of days, I'm going to come up with a video to show you the breakdown of the quadcopter. And then I'm going to give you some tips on what to do when you fly your quadcopter for the first time. So I hope you like this video. I hope you find it interesting and that it helps you. And please leave me the comments at the bottom on the comment section, and please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.